We're back with one more down. Today we have two distinguished guests, well-known figures to the city of Youngstown, specifically the South Side, Booker Newberry IV and Nate Armstrong III, two legendary figures through those early 90s. For some of them, it may be the late 80s into the early 90s. But Booker was an outstanding basketball athlete in the Youngstown City Series. Nate Armstrong, a well-respected two-time All-City offensive lineman. We get to talk to these two gentlemen today that have had a connected career through athletics and formed a long-lasting bond through friendship built on family values and manhood. I'm glad to get the two of you on together. You know, I respected everything that you guys were about as competitors, and just watching you guys progress from that high school level through college and seeing, you know, the type of men and the impact that you have in the community today. It makes me proud to know that, you know, good things still come from the South Side. So welcome to One More Down.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'd like to reiterate that as a you know, younger guy getting ready to go into high school, following the City Series, and you know, hearing the name Booker Newberry and being a lineman myself. You know, Nate, always looking for those guys that you want to kind of emulate and seeing who's getting the honors. When it would come out in the City Series would come out in the Vindicator when it was a huge deal. I'm just really intrigued and having the opportunity to talk to you guys. So looking forward to it.
Thank you.
Like we always do, we like to get a good feel of, you know, where you originate in Youngstown and get your start at. So if you would, Nate, would you like to kind of give us a little background and insight into where you grew up and transitioned through Youngstown before you got to South?
Well, we grew up pretty much on all three sides of town. Started off on the east side, then we moved to the south side for a couple years, and we moved to the north side for 3 more years, and then I ended up in South going to my sophomore year. So that's, you know, my bouncing around story, Youngstown.
And Booker, where'd you start out at in Youngstown?
Pretty much, I've been on the south side my entire childhood. I grew up on the lower south side on Lakewood, moved to Falls, and pretty much was on Falls. Yeah, bounced around a couple of times, but was on the south side my entire childhood life.
Now, for you gentlemen, the first thing we'd like to kind of get an idea of is, you know, what is your first entryway and gateway into sports for you individually, if you can remember what was that first pull into athletic competition for each of you?
Go ahead, Nick.
Well, I started playing for the Still Light Chargers, and my teammates like LaVon Lamb, Art Carter, you know, coming up with those guys, and that was pretty much my entryway to sports was with the Still Light Chargers.
My entryway was, first of all, I was always, they had a weight limit back then, so I was always overweight to play football. I had to play at the YMCA on the local basketball teams. Grew up playing with like the likes of like Dennis Green, LaVon as well, Darnell Bracey, Carson Gainey was actually my point guard. So yeah, I started down there at 6 years old.
And what was I guess what was kind of the passion that you guys had in terms of athletics and competition, whether it was football, basketball, what led you guys to be the elite, in your era of athletics?
I had an older brother. My brother's 4 years older than me, and I would see him playing, and it was like I need to get out there and do what he's doing. So just having that older brother, seeing an example he laid for me, got me excited about playing football, playing sports, and just it just that draw of seeing an older brother ball out that intrigued me to do the same thing.
It's pretty much the same for me. Family members, Tony Jones, Andre Ballinger, Sandy Washington, Rich Rotan was a neighbor. So just growing up watching those guys play sports, and they were a lot older than me. But my dad always kept me around the game of basketball. I couldn't wait to get on a team to be able to play just from following my family's footsteps.
Booker, was basketball kind of your first love? Was that the sport that you had the passion for, or how, how did that develop?
Well, like I said, I was overweight, but when I was 4 or 5 years old, I wanted to play football because I was kind of the biggest kid in the neighborhood. Even my cousins 4 years older than me, I was the same size as them. I liked the rough and tumble, but when it came time to go, I went down to the Redmen and they told me at 6 years old I was overweight to play for the big team. I think the weight limit then was 115, so I couldn't play. So I developed a love for basketball just because I couldn't play football. Ron, don't be laughing because I was 115.
No, I have to because my last year playing for the 120s, I wasn't 115. So you had some size on you if you were six and over the weight limit by that much. Um, you know, as you, I think as we all look back at ourselves as athletes, in the midst of doing it, you think you're the best thing since sliced bread. But, when you look back to those beginning days and just getting familiar with following instructions and participating in the framework of a team and being dedicated, how would you rate yourself in those early years as a beginning athlete? Did you have that instant proficiency where you knew you were a cut above the people you were with, or did you have to really work and grow into the prowess that each of you ended up developing down the line?
When I was playing little league football, actually I played fullback and linebacker, and it just came natural to me. It was like the first time I put on the equipment, it just felt like I had superpowers. I remember my dad called me Earl Campbell. He's like, "You look like Earl Campbell out there." Football just came natural. It was fun for me to play. It was natural for me to just to be good at it. So it was just something I just loved to do.
For me, like I said, it was basketball. Early on, at 6, 7 years old, they lowered the hoops to 8 feet. So it was just, I developed a baby hook shot like Robert Sampson. And I just continued to get better and better. And I thought I was the stuff. And then I got humbled at 15 years old. My cousin, Justin Jackson, came over from Beaver Falls and beat me 11-0 2 times. So I had to go back in the lab and get better.
Nate, how much of that instant love for the position and what I'm assuming is contact, how much of that do you attribute to you having that older brother? Because for me, I'm from a family of all girls, so my honing of my skills, if you will, that comes from the neighborhood competition and just trying to keep up with the older guys of that era. But having a brother in your home to sharpen your skills and kind of give you a blueprint, I think that gives the younger brother an advantage over the other brother because you're getting taught maybe some tricks of the trade that other kids your age don't get.
Yeah, my brother he used to rough me up all the time, and that it just made me that much even better because if I would even come closer to compete with him when we would do stuff, he just prepared me for that when I went out and would get kids my own age. So it just made it that much easier.
Nate, one of the things that I read about you was your prowess in track, right? And then you've gone on to coach and make a difference with kids, in the organization that you have now.
Mhm.
Um, when did you start dabbling into that? When did you start committing to that to pursue that goal?
I mean, seventh grade, I started with track when I was went to Hayes my seventh grade year, just learning about. And actually, to be honest, I wasn't very good at it, but just the love of doing something else other than just football, and I just gravitate of doing that. But to be truthful, I wasn't that the greatest, shot putter, distance, but I just something that grew over the years as I got older and become more knowledgeable. Because technically, we really didn't had a proper coaching. I just want to put it out there about even learning how to do shot putting distance properly. But we'll talk about that later as we when me and Booker crossed paths when we got to high school.
One of the things you have guys with natural talent, right? And they have a ability to play the game, whatever it might be. But I think the flip side of it is, there has to be a decision made that, I want to be good at this, and I want to pursue this. What maybe we're jumping ahead a little bit, but when do you guys feel like that clicked with you, that this is what I want to do and I'm going to work at it?
Well, I think probably my sophomore year. Once I got to South my sophomore year, I'm like I can be really really good at this. And I made up my mind that as long as I'm doing what I need to do in the classroom, I can take this and get a free education out of playing football. And I knew probably about my sophomore year, once I got to South, I'm like, I think I could roll with this.
Me, probably seventh and eighth grade for me. I like Nate said, we didn't really have the proper coaching for track, but I was pretty decent shot put and discus from eighth grade all the way up. But basketball in eighth grade, my teammates just gave me the confidence. Like Erica Jones, Danny Levy, Andre Campbell, those cats was just telling me, "Book, you the best cat in the city. Book, you the best." So it just stuck with me and made me feel like that's what I wanted to do.
Now, you both come from different schools prior to entering South. I believe Booker, you had told me that you started out at Mooney, and then for yourself, Nate, did you start out at East your first year of high school, or did
I,
you?
I was at Rand my freshman year.
Okay, so of course, with the three of us being Southsiders, during that era, South definitely had a reputation for those outside of that school, outside of that side of town. And some of it was well deserved. Some of it may have been a little bit overblown in certain instances. But coming into that school and that environment, what were your thoughts? What were your feelings in terms of your prospects, in terms of just fitting in and acclimating to how they did things up on Market Street?
I mean, for me, even though I didn't start out at South, all my family, I had family and friends from the South Side. Like I said, I did a stint at on the South Side my fifth and sixth grade years. So I went to Hillman, so I knew a lot of kids already when I did. So I already understand, what was there. Like to my brother, he graduated from South. He played, football for South. So I understood the culture that was there already. So it's pretty much it just fit right in once I had to do the transfer.
Same here. Family was there. Both of my sisters was at the school at the time. A ton of my family, the friends. Like I said, I grew up on the South Side my entire life. So, and I went like March of my ninth year. So everyone welcomed me with open arms, and it was just like, that's where I was meant to be at anyway.
Certainly before we all progress to that high school level, uh, you have those guys that you idolize as you see them crisscrossing through the neighborhood. I remember going with my older sisters to South Rand games, Southeast games, and thinking like this is the biggest stage that there possibly is, and couldn't wait until it would be my time to get out there and display. Now, for me, by the time I chose high school, it wasn't an option for me based off of my mom's decision, but still getting to play on the field, go against guys that I grew up with from kindergarten on up. Can you tell us about your entryway into the program, whether it be football or basketball, and just competing, wearing that red and blue and representing, that warrior culture and carry on that legacy?
For me, just like I was sort of around the program prior to me even coming to South when I was still at Hayes. I was the water boy during the strike year when they were on strike. They came off strike and South played Rand at South. And I remember Rand had Derek Lewis, South, Andre Ballinger. No, it wasn't Andre. It was John McWilson, Tamron Smith. Those guys playing. Just seeing those guys out there, it just got me excited. Like this is where I wanted to be. Regardless, I was a little Hayes Tiger, but in my heart, I was a South High Warriors. That probably was more likely going to be my destination once I got to high school. I remember having a conversation with my dad, and he was like, "Hey, you want to go to Mooney? I'll make sure you get." I said, "No, I'm cool where I'm at." Like I just wanted to be a South High Warrior.
For me, it was like I said, family members. Nothing like 1980, 81, 82, 83, going to those basketball games. It was like standing room only. They had to turn people away. They roped the court off when South played East and ran. And like I said, my cousin Tony Jones was just like, he was like Superman to us in the family. And he could jump and fly like Superman too. But I knew I went to all his games away, home, and I wanted to be a South High Warrior. Then a couple years later, my cousin Andre Ballinger, he was at Fitch. He transferred to South and led that 86, 87 team to the playoffs. They had a big win against Camp McKinley. And for some reason, I don't know why I went to Mooney, because my heart was at South. But I did start off at Mooney and never really fit in there. So, like I said, when I got to South, it was just meant to be.
One of the iconic structures, locations in Youngstown is the South High Field House, right? The stadium. So many city games are played there, basketball, football. So and both of you talked about like wanting to be there and wanting to be part of that. What was it like finally walking on that field, strapping it up, lacing it up, and being the guy, in that spot that you'd had looked to be for so long?
It was a wonderful feeling once I was able to. It was weird because we were living on the north side, and my grandfather was like, we bounced around for years and years, and my grandfather was like, that's enough. I want my grandson and my daughter to have a stable place. So he bought the house next door to him so we can move on the south side, and it was like I went to practice. On a Tuesday, we had a scrimmage on a Thursday that was starting for the team. Pretty much, I walked in and was a starter. So it was like it it was definitely meant for me to be at South. How all that stuff played out, but being there and being playing on the same field with likes of Miles Davis, uh, Garcia Lane. There was just a lot of history there back then. Even back way like guys like hear about NFL players like Bill Lankitis, Brian Murrow. So it was an awesome feeling to be in that royal blue and red and white. As a Southside Warrior.
Not pretty much the same. I used to. My grandmother lived on Dellison, and like I said earlier, Stanford Washington, Richard Rotan, those guys were just unreal. And I would go and jump the fence to get in the games to watch them play. And I never forget the one time my cousin Sandy Washington was playing, and he watched me jump the fence and kind of like looked at me. And then later on, he told on me. I got in trouble because they said you can't. And then he said, if you want to come in the games, you can help out. So I was super young, became a water boy, and I was just like, yeah, this is where I want to be. And then the previews. I don't know if you guys remember the previews for basketball at the Fieldhouse. That was the biggest thing ever. And my first year running out for the previews, just hearing the fans go crazy, I got chills. I'm actually getting chills now thinking about it. So it was an honor to play. And my dad played basketball at South. My uncle Spank. So rich tradition for his family come up through South High.
Now, I'm glad you kind of segue into that. Part of the theme that kind of comes to light and to the top of our discussions through some of these segments is, we like to put a premium on fatherhood and its impact, whether there is a father there or whether there's a father that's absent. I know the two of you are both named after your fathers, big personalities in front of you. Um, can you briefly talk about, what their influence in each one of your lives meant to you, and then how that helped you athletically, how it helped you through some of those adverse times as you were finding your identity as an athlete, and then, ultimately how it shapes your own fatherhood and how you deal with your own children.
Uh-huh. I mean, the influence that my father had on me. There's one saying that'll stick with me for the rest of my life. He always told me, if you're gonna do something, be the best at doing it. If you're gonna be a bum, be the best bum. Regardless of what you do, be the best at. So that just stuck with me. How I just, and I was self-driven by that one statement that he told me. So, he had a heavy influence. Another influence. He had a real heavy spiritual influence on me about giving God his praise and understanding where my strength and where my health come from, and just he was that that heavy influence in my life when it comes to just don't be out there wearing a uniform, let that uniform show out on your body. So that's one thing he really did for me.
My dad, he taught me confidence. Just told me, play hard, always be confident. And I'll never forget my 7th grade year. Like I said, I didn't get to play football little league. So my first time ever playing football was 7th grade. And my dad came to the game. He came to my first game, then didn't come back. And I asked him, like, why don't you ever come to my games? He said, I'm not coming to watch you watch a game. And I stuck. I was like, wow. So Nate had made a comment a few weeks, maybe a couple months ago. He was like, look, you realize everywhere we played, we never were like reserved. From freshman, even in college, like we were on the field, and that stuck with me from when my dad told me, I'm not coming to watch you watch a game. Get in there and play. So he taught me just go hard all the time. And then he taught me showmanship because he was a singer. Everything was a show. And he told me, even in sports, put on the show out there, have fun. So throughout my career, I have fun. I put on the show, and I'm trying to instill that in my son now.
That's it's that comment, right? It's about, I'm not coming to watch you watch a game. That's it's hard, but sometimes dad's got to be hard to get a message across, and it's not always necessarily um, the easy thing. But I think some of those conversations that dads have with their sons need to be had, and it certainly has motivated you to not be a spectator in the sport moving forward from there, right?
Absolutely.
Definitely.
And it was just hard work. That was his way of telling me, like, I had the talent, I had the size. Don't just be out there getting the gear. I think a lot of kids to today, like, they love just going be on the team and get the gear. That was like, you could get out there and get dirty, earn it. So that's what I got from that.
Now, for me, you guys are probably first, second, third that I've actually been on the field with at the live in person, part of the team participating. I like to kind of jump back in time to YSU Thursday night, 1990. We got a 6'7" quarterback. We needed a weight limit back then because it's not fair to have to tackle a guy that big. But we're talking about a more evenly balanced city series at that time. So I was a sophomore that year. JV tailback, playing way out of position. I couldn't catch on to the system at first. I had always played quarterback prior to that, but their terminology and play calling, it was just a little too fast for me. So I ended up mimicking Sylvester Patton and becoming a tailback somehow. But I got on the field that game. Was there to witness that back and forth battle. This would have been Matt Gilchrist, Aubrey Dawson, Rich Sylvester, John Wallaco. You guys had Danny Levy, Brian Jenkins, yourselves, Eric Bankston out there, Denisio Hewlett out there. I'd like to kind of get, your perspectives on City Series football at that time, and specifically, I'm jumping to that '90 season because that was the only time I got to see you play football live, Booker, and then obviously myself and Nate, we got to do battle the following year. His senior year would have been my junior year. But, can you kind of go back to that 1990 season where you take the reins as a quarterback? And, this is my time to kind of correct a sentiment and a statement that didn't come across right when we talked to Coach Demesko. I had made a comment that, you always seem to select an athletic guy at that quarterback position. And I was wanting to get the philosophy as to why that was. Now, our big guy here who has sweet feet, certainly good fundamentals from basketball, and was one of the best athletes to ever come through South High. He just did it in a different way and, guided that team and looked different than any other quarterback that had come through there in recent history. I think the only guy I could compare you to stature-wise would have been Ray Merrill. Typically everybody else that I seen was in that 5'9" to 5'10" range, and probably would have been Division I as a receiver or DB. But for you, 6'7", probably. I'm gonna say you was probably 240 at that time, but that may be off one way or the other. You did a good job leading that team and really being a field general for that team. You moved that team down the field against us. You had to plunge to put you guys up early in that game, and then Nate. Listening to Jeremy Batchelor, I've got that inside scoop from when you guys scrimmaged Mooney there at South, and he always gives you praise and props of being a sound fundamental offensive lineman with good technique. I say all of that to preface, I want to get your thoughts and your ideas of other teams in the city and that 1990 season, and how that all played out for you guys.
I think that season in particular, Demesko labeled us as the Dirty 30. It was just 30 kids, and we were very, very. We were like a family. And biggest thing I remember was I was a tight end. I was a tight end defensive end, and actually I played 89 tight end defensive end. But when I went back out, Demesko said we didn't have a quarterback that was able to, push the ball down the field. I'm going to go back a little bit, but 88, 89, I think that's the year. Nate and I were over coaching ourselves, throwing a shot put and discus, and guys were over there throwing the football. Football came in the ring. I just took it and threw it. And track coach was like, holy cow, who threw that ball? And I thought I was in trouble. They all pointed at me. He took me out, track practice, come here, come throw the ball. So I threw the ball for Demesko. I wasn't interested in playing quarterback, but like I said, they said that was what we needed. So I said, wherever you guys want me to play. So I played quarterback, and we were just tight. I can remember one game, I got sacked like 3 times in a row, and Nate and Jerry Marshall grabbed the other lineman and was like, yo, we got to protect this guy. And Jerry was like, this is our mother. We got to protect him. And sure enough, everybody bought into it, started giving me time, and, we made a couple of drives. Like you said, Ron, it was very, very competitive, and we knew each other. We wanted to beat the guys from Cheney. We wanted to beat the guys from East. We wanted to beat the guys from Red. We weren't laying down. Like I said, we went to practice every day just like everybody did. And we weren't the most talented, but we played hard.
Mm-hmm. Like Booker said, we were the Dirty 30. We didn't have, it wasn't no such thing as taking plays off because, if the ball turned over, you got to go and play on defense. We didn't have a platoon where you only went one way. So we fought, we were scrappy. Like I said, we didn't have the most talent, but we was definitely had the will and desire to be successful. Like some guys wasn't good as others on the team, but they gave it their all. And like the '90s, that whole year of having 5 different high schools in the area, it was fun to play in the city series because you never knew what kind of games you're gonna get. Going against Rand and Pat Humphrey and Craig Powell and Daryl Shepard, them guys, and Wilson.
Nate, don't say please don't say Daryl Shepard, please.
Yeah, he did light you up that play. Guys like Kurt Fitzgerald, going against Cheney guys, Sylvester Patton, and it was just a lot of fun playing the city series at that time. It was a lot of good quality football. Even though, like I said, South, we didn't have the best talent, but we had a lot of guys that were scrappy and then gave it their all.
I think that's one of the things that's lost on people who didn't grow up in that era, how competitive the City Series was and how many great players came from the City Series. And so who was in football and I'd be interested in basketball, like who was the teams that you considered your rivalry, right? Who were the guys that you wanted to go against and you wanted to play against and it got you fired up from both aspects?
For me, I think my rivalry was I would say Rand because I was there, and then every time when I went back, when we played against them, they made it personal because actually the first year I left, when we played them, I got my ankle was broke, and I feel like they did it on purpose. So that just stuck with me. When we played Ren, I think that was my rivalry when we played them.
For me, Ran and East in football. I just ran, like you said, like we had all took in our mind that they hurt Nate on purpose. So when we went to go play against Rand, it was personal for us. And then East was East. You know, they had all the athletes and they had the pretty cheerleaders. So we had to show out when we played against them. And then basketball, everybody knows my biggest rival from 7th and 8th grade was LaVon. LaVon Lamb, Kevin Traylor, Craig Powell, Damon Carr, what's Kevin? What's his name? Something Scott.
Kevin. Kevin Scott.
I forgot, but Rand was loaded, and I tell LaVon all the time, man, if I could have just had Kevin Traylor, Omar Muhammad with me, I think I would won a state championship. And then in track East, they were the thorn in our side in track and field. I remember one time, my senior year at the city series, we were winning, and then all of a sudden, East found 2 points and won the city. They literally just said, we found 2 points, and East ended up winning the city, 90-88.
I even volunteered to run the 4x800 just so we can get some points.
Yep.
Now, some of the, we're all fortunate. All four of us get the opportunity to extend our athletic careers and continue that experience beyond high school. But so many guys that we've grown up with, so many guys that we played with that we know had supreme talent that didn't get that opportunity. I always like to take that moment to get to highlight those guys that you played with over the course of your career, just so they're not forgotten to time. If they're anything like I am, I love telling my sons and my daughters about when I could and how I used to. For you guys, who were some of your favorite teammates in the various teams and competitions that you played, and why?
I think for me in football, the person who I thought was going to go somewhere was Demesko. He was, man, he had size, he had speed, and it just, man, I was like, man, he gonna be nice. He gonna go somewhere and tear up on college. But he never got the opportunity. But that was one person that really sticks out to me was Demesko Hewlett.
For me, my favorite teammate, obviously he's on here right now. I can't say enough. Like I said, every quarterback, coach would send plays in, I would wave it off. I'm gonna find Nate. I'm gonna do a quarterback sneak. So Nate was my favorite teammate, but a guy two guys I thought were just phenomenal. Danny Levy, and then the sleeper was Larry Jordan. I mean, no one gave Larry any credit, but I knew I'd be like, look, Larry, we need a first down, we need a touchdown, run a skinny post, and people didn't think he was fast, but nobody ever caught him. Nobody ever caught Larry Jordan. So, and then I'll take one step further. There was a guy named Punk Rock, Anthony Harris. I wish the world could have got to see him. Like, you ask Matt Gilchrist about him, Diallo Anderson, all those guys in 8th grade, Punk Rock destroyed all of them. And Anthony Harris was the man. But unfortunately, he I don't even think he played in high school. But yeah, he was probably the best running back that I saw with my own 2 eyes.
Now, to shift into the basketball lane, because you guys had more control and more success in the sport of basketball over at South historically. You mentioned earlier that your father was a South Warrior, played hoops. Nate, I think when we were talking the other night, you said your dad was also a former South basketball player as well.
Yeah.
So, in thinking about those people that came before you, did you feel like you were left to develop on your own and representing, you know, yourself as individual athletes, or did you feel a sense of obligation and responsibility to carry on, you know, that legacy that was before you, especially, you know, bearing the name of the man that's going to be in the stands watching you, and he has to answer to his friends or his old teammates about how good or how bad you are?
I was a totally different player from my dad. My dad was actually a point guard. He was a pass first point guard. Actually was scared to shoot, and he would always ask me like, "Man, where you get that from? Like, you ain't never met a shot you didn't like." And I just was like, "Dad, the object of the game is to score. So I could handle the ball, I could pass, but the object of the game for me was to score." So I pretty much just developed a jump hook, fundamentals, and then just tactics and putting on a show. I literally would have so much fun out there on that basketball court. I would put on a show, and you know, my dad's friends, they knew who they were coming to see Friday nights, Tuesdays and Friday nights. They knew.
I mean, as far as me, my dad, you know, he was a hooper. He actually had a tryout with the Baltimore Bullets back in the day. So, you know, just seeing him, you know, I can just remember going to the Cal playground and watching him hoop when I was a little kid, and him being 5'9", going up, cuffing the ball, dunking it. He was a competitor, and then he just really instilled that in me. You know, I was never a hooper. Don't get me wrong, I could ball a little bit, but that wasn't my main lane, because me and Book had a lot of fun at the playground. But you know, just seeing my dad just being so competitive and being only 5'9", he never backed down from a challenge. So that part some of the things that he instilled with me. You know, being a little dude, but he definitely had hops on the court.
So question for you, Book. When did you transition to playing quarterback?
1990, it was my senior year, 90, 91.
So, you know, one of the things, I guess, like, you know, basketball is a whole different animal, right? You can't hide,
Right.
right? There's no hiding on the basketball court. You know, football is a little bit different, right? You get mixed up in the pile. If you don't know what you're looking for, you don't the average viewer might not see what's taking place. Um, how was that different, right? Playing tight end, D end, you know, being a feature guy in a basketball court. What was the dynamic there like?
As far as going to quarterback,
Well, I'm just thinking, you know, on the basketball court, you're it, right? Everybody's coming to see it. Everybody's coming to see you. And then, you know, on the football field, you're just kind of in the fray. And it's going to lead into my next question, which would be, you know, then you're right back in your senior year. You're right back in the spotlight.
okay. So I'm a teammate first. Um, Whatever the team needs me to do. So I was raw in football. You know, I was told that I could be a decent type, good defensive end, so that's where I went. So it wasn't hard for me. It was just what the team needed at the time, right? Even when I became a quarterback.
And then did you I don't want to say anonymity, but did you enjoy some of the anonymity, or did you enjoy being the guy back at quarterback?
Um, it was a lot of pressure being a quarterback. Um, you know, I was raw. I didn't know what progressions were. I lock on to my first receiver. I remember our first game. The coaches, we scripted 10 plays. No matter what was going to happen, we were running these 10 plays. So we started out moving the ball. And like I said, I didn't know how to read coverages and anything. And that fourth or fifth play, I threw the ball and the defensive end dropped in, interception. And I felt like I let my team down, you know, but they were like, "It's all right, just one play." So it was just like it's a lot of pressure being a quarterback, and that thing about confidence earlier. I wasn't confident being a quarterback just because I was so raw, but I did what the team needed me to do and just try my hardest.
Yeah, I mean, nowadays, did you have any opportunities coming out in football from the standpoint of, I mean, your size right now, that's like prime tight end. Um, I mean, you see some basketball guys that never put their hand on the ground, getting drafted as tight ends or getting a free agency opportunity. Did you have some opportunities coming out in football?
Yeah, I back in the day we used to get letters. Um, I had a trash bag full of letters. And I remember I was talking about going to Ohio State or YSU to play football, and Demesko, my coach told the football coaches that I'm interested in playing basketball. So every coach that was coming up to recruit me just kind of stopped because they were told that I was going to play basketball. But I did have a few. Now the crazy part is one school recruited me as a quarterback, and that's Tiffin University. That's where my godson Christian was going to. Only school that recruited me as a quarterback.
If someone would have gotten a hold of you early on, you actually had the athleticism, the size, and the frame that you could have really been anything that you wanted to be on the football field, and that's from the interior line all the way back. Maybe I don't know if I put you back in the defensive backfield, maybe walk you up as a rolled up safety, but you could do it all really for a man of your size and your stature. There was no limitation to your athleticism. You were just a big man doing things, and it looked abnormal for our area because of that size difference. Um, I'm kind of interested to know, as you guys transition away from that high school experience and you're making your decisions for what's next for you. Um, Nate, you've earned accolades on the football field as a lineman. Booker, you established yourself as a household name in our area on the hardwood. As you're making those decisions and choices for yourselves, leaving away from there, what opportunities did you have in front of you, and then what ultimately made you make the choices that you made for yourselves individually?
I mean, once it was time to make that decision for college, I got recruited by Akron for a D tackle, IUP for offensive lineman. But once I went on a visit, the head coach told me, he says, when I look at your film, you are the most technical sound offensive lineman that we've come across, but you just don't have the attributes that we're looking for. You only 5'11", 6 foot, and you don't have the long arms that we're looking for offensive lineman. But then once Westminster came calling, and he was my position coach that came recruited me, and he had all those national championship rings, and he didn't care about my size. He said, "But one thing I'm gonna guarantee you that you can be playing for a national championship. You come here." And that's what that made me make my decision right then and there. Somebody who wanted me, somebody didn't care that I was 6 foot, somebody that just knew the type of football player I was. So that made me make my decision that Westminster College was the place to be for me. And then he said, I can assure you can go here for free, and that's all I needed to hear: free education.
Me, on the other hand, it was almost like I wasn't wanted. I didn't know why. I didn't have any offers or anything late in the season for football or basketball, but all the football coaches were told I was playing basketball, and all the basketball coaches was told I was playing football. So here I am, late March. I actually went to go seek about enrolling in the service my senior year. I didn't know where I was going. And then, excuse me, a coach, I was playing in the hall tournament, kind of getting some recognition. They're like, who is that kid? He's not signed. So then the coach, Ernie Kent, he had coached at Stanford the prior year. He was in town watching South play. He was recruiting Bobby Patton. He came to the YSU to watch South play Liberty. I had a pretty decent game that game. So when he got the head coaching job at St. Mary's, he called to the school and was just like, has Booker Newberry signed? And my basketball coach was like, no. So he called me. He got the job on a Wednesday. He got the job on a Monday. He called the school Tuesday. I flew out there Thursday, and I was signing that following Monday. So in 7 days from him getting the job, and it was almost like what Nate said, I was like, wow, somebody wants me. So that was honestly the only, I'm not going to say the only, that was the only Division I opportunity that I had at the time. So I took it and rolled with it.
And with recruiting these days, it's tough. It's tough for kids to navigate without some guidance. Nate, both you guys said the same sentiment of, part of this recruiting process is you want to be somewhere where you're wanted, where you're valued, where, if nothing else, hey, I'm going to get a shot at it, a fair shake, a straight opportunity, and then whatever I make of it, it is what it is. But it's a really tough process nowadays, and I think what you guys just said is a real factor in all of this is the desire to have you, whoever that may be, to come and play for them.
And that was very important, when we making that decision at Westminster, and it was away from home, but it was close enough if I needed to get back home that it was a perfect location for me. Because I'm the youngest of three kids, and I'm a mama's boy. I ain't gonna lie, I was a mama's boy. So if I need to get back to my mama, I was only about 25 minutes away. My brother was driving, was only 15, but I wasn't too far away from home.
In my like I was so far away. I was just I got homesick early on. I kind of felt like I was lied to. Well, not like I was lied to. There was some things promised. I had no idea about the recruiting process, so I ended up going to St. Mary's. But even when I chose St. Mary's, Westminster, Coach Galbraith was always recruiting me. But I just kind of felt like I wanted to go away. But when I came back, when I came home my sophomore year, I knew I wasn't going back to St. Mary's just because of the stuff, the way things went down. And I was looking at Murray State, YSU, and then me and Nate hooked up, and Nate was like, "Why don't you come up visit Westminster?" And I'm just like, "Yeah." But so we kind of let it go. The next thing you know, I told Nate, I'm coming to Westminster. He's like, yeah, right. And the rest was history then.
What was that dynamic like, going completely across the country, as an 18, 19-year-old kid and navigating that? What was that dynamic like?
It was tough. I tell everybody, if it was like today, I could definitely do it with the Cash App, the Zoom, like this stuff like that. But back in 1991, I left Youngstown. I had one gym bag, 2 pair of shoes, and $17. And that was it. And it was rough. It was rough just because I was used to a certain thing. I had to write letters. There was no cell phones, and it was like $1.19 a minute then, so phone bills would have been high. So it was tough. But I managed to get through it once basketball started. I started just kind of blocking that homesickness away, playing basketball. Then I became the freshman of the year. So it had its ups and downs. But the one thing I always resorted back to was playing basketball. I was able to do something I love to do, which kind of occupied my mind from the homesickness.
Now, you guys getting to both go to Westminster and overlap time there. I know how I felt as an athlete coming out of high school. My view of myself and where I thought I fit and where I should have been, it was higher. It may have been inflated, but I think it bared itself out during the course of my career playing Division II football, is that I was able to hold my own from early on. And I don't know if that's a function and a makeup of how we're reared and how we're bred in Youngstown. We always want constant competition and we don't want to be left out. We want to be participants. For you, did you guys respect the level of what Westminster had to offer before experiencing the different competition and seeing that there's always, no matter what level you play, there's always guys that can play and guys that, you kind of wonder how did they even get here from D1 all the way down to D3. But, can you kind of tell us about your experiences, on those fields and on the hardwood in terms of what you thought about the level of competition and the competitiveness for what NAIA was during those early 90s?
I mean, once I got there, I had up in my mind that, I'm just as good or even better than anyone that is at my position, and the only thing that really held me back as a freshman is not knowing the system. And plus I had 4 senior tackles ahead of me. So, in the coach's eyes, we already got our guys that we want, but still in the back of my mind, I knew that, I could definitely compete. But then once you get there, you see that, wow, everybody here can play, so you got to make sure you're doing the things that's going to make yourself stick out, and show the coaches that you're able to play also. So, and then also too, at that level, you're able to have JV games, and I really showed the coaches that, I don't need to be playing JV. I need to be one of your guys that you rely on Saturday afternoon instead of on a Tuesday evening, So, once I got there, you saw the talent, but I always felt that, I can definitely compete with these guys that's here.
Yeah, for me, it was I don't know, like going back to NAIA, I didn't really respect the talent coming from Division One. That first year was kind of like, open gyms. I was kind of just dominating it. I came right in and started, but as the season went on, I'm like, oh, these guys could play. And then the following year, which would have been my junior year, we had another Division One transfer, and then the point guard that came in was a freshman, Jimmy Del Sandro. He was just as good as the point guard I had out at St. Mary's. So I really started respecting it. We started getting some more recruits in, and the competition was stiff. And a lot of the NAIA schools that we played in the national championship tournament, they were filled with Division One transfers. So the competition was stiff.
When we talk about Booker Newberry IV, Nate Armstrong III, we've focused a lot of time and attention on the athletic side of who you guys are. But, being an outside observer and just kind of knowing the reputations ahead of talking to you all today, you guys are multi-layered, multi-talented guys. Athletics isn't all that you are. I remember, watching you, Nate, perform with the Youngstown Connection, and it really being that first time that I broke out of that mentality of thinking, guys that veered away from playing athletics, football, whatever, were soft or, they corny, for lack of a better term. But coming to see my friend perform and then watching you and how you were engaged and performing on that stage. To paint the picture, here I am seeing a guy that I've just seen in football equipment, probably pushing about 265, 270 at that time. There he is in a tux, cummerbund, white gloves, and he's singing baritone and dancing on the stage, but very, very athletically, very technical. And I think for me, it was the first time that I ever looked at a peer or contemporary doing something that was probably way outside of my comfort zone, but seeing that person make it look cool and acceptable. Booker, for yourself, you come from this family with, a great musical background. Your father was just tremendous, really gifted in what he did as a musician, and him forging a career and making a way for himself coming from Youngstown. Some of that talent ultimately is passed on to you. I've heard you sing, seen different clips of you doing your thing, and it's so far outside of the persona of what someone would think you are or what you're about. How does that influence of music, performance, showmanship, the confidence to step outside of that identity of just being an athlete and try other things and enjoy other things? Can you each give a synopsis of that process and how much enjoyment you get out of that side as compared to being an athlete?
I think just being a part of the Youngstown connection and being a part of choirs, it was like almost like a balance, something that gets your mind off the physicality of football. For me, it was able to, for me, so I can get a part. I can really be myself. My laughing, jovial, having a good time self, and it really allowed me to to be able to split that time from, because when I'm on the field, I'm trying to hurt you. I'm trying to trying to dominate you, but that's not me. So me, you seeing me on the stage and in the tux, that's the real Nate. That's the Nate that like to have fun, the Nate that like to have a good time, and enjoy, the other things that life has to offer. And I really enjoyed that time too, because it allowed me to see things and go places normally an inner city kid from Youngstown would not be able to see. I was able to go to Europe. I'm walking around in the streets of Lyon, France, when I'm 15 years old, because of the Youngstown connection. So I'm definitely grateful of the opportunity that it taught me. And also a correlation to sports too, because the dance that we did, it made me light on my feet. So it made me even a better football player. So I'm thankful of, Carol Barrett, who was the director of that decided this little chubby black kid at Rand at the time was be a part of her show choir. So I'm thankful for that. And I met some awesome people through the process.
With me, music, it's like it runs in my family. And when I say it runs in my family, literally like every person in my family can sing on both sides. But for me, it wasn't my first love. People thought I was gonna sing. I actually thought I didn't know I could sing until maybe my sophomore year in high school when my buddy Rose Griffin, he was like, "Dude, you can sing, man. Let's sing in this gong show." And I'm like, "I ain't singing." And then he said, "But come on, man, you can sing." And when we did the gong show, the reaction I got, I was like, "Oh wow." So I started singing, and to this day, every time me and Nate hook up, we hitting them harmonies and singing something. But like you said, the showmanship, we're the same. Just silly, fun, like to have a good time. And I don't know if we discussed this, Ron, but I don't know if I told you, but Nate and I both danced for the Cavaliers. That was just like, that was probably the greatest experience that we ever had.
So that basically marries both worlds together. You get to get on the pro hardwood floor and express the talent that you have. I I wish we would have been taught earlier that it's okay to be that type of guy in a place like Youngstown. Early on, it's so testosterone driven, reputation driven. I think a lot of talent gets extinguished before it's ever had a chance to be explored. And to see, men like yourself that have a foundation and a resume and a pedigree where you can point to both and say, nah, I can be this and I can be this. I imagine that it makes it easier to push your children into areas that they may be a little bit apprehensive about compared to their peer set because you serve as an example.
Yeah, definitely. In fact, my son was in a singing group, 9 years old. He loved it. He opened up for Dougie Fresh, Doc G. So he jumped right in, dancing, singing, rapping, everything. So it was just, and I don't know if at that age he understood the magnitude of what he was doing, or if he even cared that some people might look at it as being corny. But he definitely enjoyed it, and I was supportive of it.
I mean, my boys, they never really got involved with the, my son played the sax. My older son played the sax in school. They never really got involved with, as far as like, sing groups or like that. But they were not bashful about expressing, what they like to do. They'll sing for a girl, whatever. But but we always just from our background, just spew those for our kids that be yourself and don't allow anybody to compromise of who you are.
And I think that's a huge message. And both you guys are involved with working with youth currently, whether it's in coaching or your careers or both. The duality of a person, right? There's so many pressures on young men and just people, but the expectations, the stereotypes of what you should be, and then you have, like Ron said, to me that's so intriguing, and because we all have these other interests other than sports, but sometimes we're a little bit nervous to express that because of what the expectations of what an athlete should be, or and I think that's a huge example to set. So uh, it's the fact that you guys are plugged into young people now and have both aspects is huge to who you work with.
It was, what really got me after I was married. We were blessed to have two boys, and my oldest son was 6 years old, and he brought a flyer home. It was a flyer from the West Side Patriots. Come sign up for West Side Patriots here at the McDonald's here on Mahoney Avenue. And I told him, I said, if we do this, you locked in until you can't do it no more. You're not gonna quit. So that was the catalyst of getting me involved with my son when it came to football, and it's been, I guess, ever since that point, I've been involved in some shape, form, or fashion with football, as far as on the coaching aspect of it.
With me, my dad, he worked the intensive probation unit as I was growing up. And so he was always with kids, and they had like flag football leagues, and so I was always around kids then. And then once we went to Westminster, we started working basketball camp, and Nate worked the camp with me, and the reaction we would get from working with the kids, and their parents would just appreciate what we were doing with the kids. That's when I thought, like, yeah, this is my passion, just working with the kids, giving back to the kids.
Yeah, I did forget about it. Yeah, that was some good times working for Ron Galbraith basketball camp. Just being ourselves and influencing these young men and women that came to the camp. That was something that probably also gravitated me to, as far as being like coaching, and know you can make an impact on kids positively, through the coaching side.
Now, when you look over the things that you've experienced as athletes, workforce, and all of that, what for each one of you, what's been those adverse moments, whether it be on the field or off the field, for you as individuals? Um, you know, how does the experience of being in high level competition, um, performing, how does that impact your fatherhood and being that central figure and that motivator like your fathers were for you?
I mean, it really made me, be a father that be extremely supportive of my kids, and just my how I was raised, and like the whole saying go, if you're gonna do something, be the best at it. When my son went and brought that flyer home far as from for the West Side Patriots, and I saw that the organization needed help, so it just it roped me in, and it just blew up to me from being just a coach to the president of the organization to the president of the whole league. And if I was going to be a part of it, I wanted to be done right. So just that whole just having that mentality coming up, do something to be the best. So if you're going to be a part of it, be the best. So that's what has driven me over the years.
I think some of the adverse times with me were just growing up on the South Side. You know, and we didn't really talk about this, but it's reality. Being there, going to battle with a teammate, and then the next day or next week, your teammate ain't there. Um, Incarceration, suspension. It was just like, man, So we had to endure some things that a lot of kids didn't have to, and it really like made us tougher. Made me appreciate the freedom in the game. Like just growing up on the South Side was tough. Everybody knows that. But and then I just try to instill toughness into my son now, and to the middle school kids that I coach, and just tell them not taking things for granted. Just work hard, don't take things for granted.
Now, Nate, as we had discussed a little bit earlier, your son went through a life changing transformation over this summer. Um, you know, did his unfortunate accident push your fatherhood into another realm or another area that you had never anticipated?
It really made me appreciate um, me being there as a father, and seeing every moment, every milestone he ever had in sports. I was always there. And when he had his accident and he was no longer able to do that anymore, it hurt as a father. Seeing him being able to play sports to when he was 4 years old, and then up to this point where it came to a screeching halt. And as a father, it hurt me deep knowing that my son can't do something that he no longer can do anymore. And it really, it really put a damper on, like, do I still want to be a part of coaching other kids? Because my son can't play no more. But coaching really helped me get through, these tough times that we've been dealing with, and it really was hard for us to deal with. But his mental strength, his mental toughness has helped me continue on to do what I'm doing.
And so what does it mean to you to be able to kind of continue on and day to day, not necessarily the X's and O's of athletics, but that's part of it. Um, but to be able to invest in kids and make those relationships, because that's what coaching is really about, is
Mm-hmm.
relationships. What does that mean to you?
I mean, it means a lot to me because I know I could be influenced for good in these young men's lives, and just being able to every day reach out to them. I make myself very accessible. I'm a little bit too accessible when it comes to uh, them and them being able to FaceTime me at any time of day. Uh, I'm thankful that that I have that they are willing to reach out to me any kind of day. It kind of drive my wife a little bit crazy, but just to have that relationship with them, knowing I can be a positive force in their lives, I'm thankful for the opportunity that I do have. I have 49 boys on my roster, and I can be a positive influence for those 49 young men, making a difference in our community.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Dustin.
No, I guess does having that relationship and that connection with people, does that kind of impact what you guys are doing now? Because like I said, um, I read articles on both of what you guys are doing. I think Nate, from you, it was August, and then Book, I was, even before we started talking about having you on, I was reading an article about things you were doing with investing in kids. Does that connection and relationship propel you to build those, invest in people, and hopefully build more of those?
Yeah, like I said, we got a lot in common. We both, like, he worked at GE, I sold cars, but we always gravitate back to kids. So we just have a lot in common, and it's always been that way. And the the smile that we put on these kids' face, whether it's a joke, whether it's tough love, whether it's the encouragement, I think I'm kind of speaking for both of us, but it really gives us the satisfaction to know that we're actually making a difference in kids' lives.
Yeah, and just to piggyback on what Book was saying is just knowing that you can make that positive impact on a young man's life. That makes it all better. Knowing kids that I coach through Little League, and I see, one kid, he's starting quarterback for Air Force Academy right now. He was my quarterback back in the day. Knowing that, I may have said something to him to cause him to want to go and play that next level, or seeing a kid that I used to coach, and now he's a deputy sheriff down in Columbiana County. So it just knowing that you made a positive impact on kids makes it all worthwhile. What we do, when we come to being positive with kids.
I will leave it to whoever wants to go first, but if you had one more down, um, where would it be? What would you be doing, and who would you be doing it with?
Go ahead, Book. You can go first.
All right, if I had one more down, I would be on the stage with my parents, my sister, singing. That's something that I never really got a chance to do. I sung with my sister here and there. I sung with my dad here and there. But as far as my mom and my dad and my sister all together, never had that chance. So if I had one more down, I would be on the stage singing with my family.
If I had one more down, man, it's so many memorable moments. Just being able to be with go back to high school, and if I knew the things I know now and take it back to high school, how much better we would have been coming out of high school. You know, especially for track. Like, we never really had a coach to coach me and Booker. I was the coach for Booker at the point, really. So if I knew the things I know now, I could go back and really make myself even better, so I can be a better man for my children, a better man for my wife, a better man for all the people I come in contact with.
Well, just meeting you guys now, and getting a little 90-minute snippet of who you are and doing a little homework for this. I mean, I think you guys are great examples of good men and investing in people, and I think you know, our community and world would be a better place if there were more people doing what you're doing. So, kudos to you, both of you guys. So
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, and I echo those same sentiments. Being able to go back in my memory bank and think 30 plus years of different points that I've seen you guys on the South Side. I remember they used to have the summer basketball league outside at Fosterville Playground. And I remember you coming up there playing in that and, doing your thing in your prime. And we looked up to you. Herman Carr was one of my classmates, and you've always kind of been that big brother figure in a sense, because you always wanted to see somebody else at least get the opportunity and the chances that you were afforded. And that says something about your character. It says something about how you were raised. And then, Nate, I've heard great things about you. Been a competitor against you, but for whatever people think about Youngstown, whatever they think about inner city South in particular, you guys defy that negative connotation because you don't subscribe to what that is. It's almost like you already knew how to walk in your purpose. And if I could guess, I would imagine it has to do with how you were raised, what you were influenced by, and what you ultimately chose to devote your energy to. And it makes me proud to see that you guys are passing that along like men used to do for us when we were little kids, developing. You're creating lanes and avenues for kids to be successful, and you don't see that enough anymore in a real genuine way. And to see that come from two guys that I'm familiar with in terms of what they're about, I give you guys all the glory and all the praise for staying in that lane and doing that and representing that. It really is a tremendous thing. I'm glad that you guys agreed to do this with us tonight. I think your story was tremendous. Gave some perspective, and it may give a kid who may decide to take a peek at this down the line, something to think about and chew on, and steer them in a way that they may not have been going otherwise. So thank you for being a guest tonight.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for having us. Appreciate that.